our kids and many of us struggle to listen. We listen to wait our turn to speak, as opposed to really listening to what someone is saying and responding to what they just said. We listen to words, but don't listen to body language enough, right? And we really need to get stronger at that, right? Because sometimes our friend wants us to listen just to listen without responding. Sometimes they just need an ear, and we got to be able to sense that, right? And many of our kids are good. We know what happens is because formal education has been stripped from us for so long, we've developed those sort of intuitive intellectual abilities. So we're kind of strong with that. And when you align that to creative opportunities, that's when you get something amazing like hip-hop culture, right? Because it's the intuition plus the creativity. But communication has always been essential. Another skill is the skill of self-directed learning. We talked about that last night. So what if the curriculum was aligned to the passion that students have for the world around them? What if we really gave them opportunities to explore the world? Right? You talk about globalization, they got these new you put a cell phone in this thing and you wear it around your eyes, and you can literally take field trips all over the world. What if we gave students why don't we invest in that, to give them the opportunities to take field trips to the bottom of the ocean, right? And study the coral reef through the glasses, through the cell phone, right? Literally, they can take online field trips everywhere, find out what they're passionate about, and look at issues in their community, whether it's drugs, incarceration, economics, entrepreneurship, banking, whatever it is, and allow them to design a curriculum in alignment with that passion. Because it's through your passion, that's how you find your purpose. Through your passion is how you find your purpose. And for so long, Black people and poor people and Latino people and others, we haven't been allowed to find our purpose. We haven't been given the opportunity. We're too busy working and trying to make it, surviving. You know, and I love what you said about education in one generation doing better than the other. That's why I'm trying to do all I can, to represent my mother accordingly. Right? I'm proud to be the founding principal. I'm actually working on a doctorate now, so I will be Dr. Bowman soon, right? But it's about taking it to a whole nother level. But our parents and grandparents sometimes didn't have that opportunity. Get a job with some good benefits and you're doing all right, which is fine. That's what they needed to survive. But we have to take it to another level, and our kids have to take it to another level. So self-directed learning. Very specifically in terms of early childhood, I advocate a Montessori education, because Montessori has these 21st century skills that I'm talking about built into how it works. It's independent learning, it's group learning, it's tactile learning with your hands, it's abstract learning, it's concrete learning. Why don't we have Montessori education in our public schools?
Because I set up Montessori in the kind of revitalization of Franklin High School. Had a big trained teachers over the summer at Nazareth College, instituted the Montessori K through 5, and then modified Montessori for middle school. Program took off, was going beautifully. The superintendent leaves, and the person who comes in is the new superintendent shattered the program. And so we have a Montessori, but it's not as effective as it was. Let's see, that was 1999, 2001.
It's open until about
2006, right. Yeah, Montessori, we set it up. It was the 6th publicly funded Montessori in the country at that time. Had the cooperation of the superintendent in terms of trying to revitalize education in the community.
New superintendent comes in and shatters.
New superintendent comes in.
And that's where, real quick, Dr. Kabir, and that's where we talk about parent voice. If parents are organized a collective body, that would never happen.
Right.
Because the new superintendent, listen, if you come into this community, you got to sign off on a Montessori early childhood curriculum. And if you ain't ready to do that, we not hiring you, period.
But you know what has happened here? based on my experience at the school they named in my honor, somehow the confidence of the parents has been shattered. For individuals 16 to and older, the illiteracy is 58% in this city. So it's very difficult to get parents out and for them to comprehend what their children must face and their cooperation with their children for the future.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate at my school, average daily attendance is 95%, but I get that by, I don't send a letter home, I robocall the parents.
Yeah.
And the last 2 years, the attendance has been 95% average daily attendance. Now I'm trying to work on the academic performance. 2 summers ago I got money and had a summer program for parents, 13 parents involved. So now I'm measuring the attendance and the academic performance of the children of those parents. So
are you directly involved in everything you're talking about? You're doing this?
yeah,
So
I was able to get
So this is what I mean. Can I
$120,000.
come just kind of hug you real quick, right? This is what I'm saying, right? This man is how young? How young?
I'm 88.
88. Okay? 88, been doing it his entire life and is still going strong, talking to me, a baby compared to him, strategically about things he's doing in his school that I do the same things in my school.
Yeah. You know, 63 years ago, I taught Black history at an Episcopal church here to young teenage Black girls and boys. Most of them went to college. See, that's another missing element. Our children do not know our history. And if you can still go to church, you should demand that Black history be an integral part of your church, your church experience. The adults need it, and certainly the children need it.
As well as an integral part of the school curriculum.
Absolutely.
It has to. You again, 88% of this district, if I'm not mistaken, is Black and Latino, right?
Right.
They have to know their history. On the flip side of that, I looked at a 4th grade curriculum a couple of years ago. I was just looking at what the state-sponsored curriculum, 4th grade curriculum, and it was talking about the colonial times, and it talked about how the colonists and the slaves and the Native Americans lived in harmony and worked together to build a new culture and customs, right? So they're whitewashing history, right? Slaves worked in harmony, really?
Right.
That's how it worked? As opposed to reading the slave narratives and really diving into the slave experience so the kids can know real history. They continue to whitewash our history. They would never do that in Jewish communities.
No.
They would never allow that. So we shouldn't allow it either. We have this, you talk about the unconscious impact on how we behave, right? We have this belief that we don't deserve any better as a community. We have this because this country has continued to remind us that if you're poor, Black, or Latino, you don't deserve better. You don't matter. There's something called a eugenics movement. So after they freed the slaves, they came with standardized testing to prove that this underclass of society doesn't need to interact with our society, which led to Jim Crow and a lot of the slave laws. They used testing then to prove that we were inferior, and they're doing the same thing now without investing where they need to invest to make sure our kids get what they deserve. That $850 million in this district is your tax dollar.
Correct.
Which means that you need to have a voice in making sure where it goes and how it's implemented. Yes.
But I've been involved with education of children since I came to this community I came here in 1952 to go to graduate school, and I worked with young people trying to convey to them their opportunities and their history being very important. They had to get an education. The thing that I find very disconcerting, though, is the adult population has failed these children. And I'll give you an example. About 10 years ago, there was a possibility that there would be no nurses in the schools. You had a 36,000 student body in Rochester, New York. For some unknown reason, the Commissioner of Health for the County of Monroe, Dr. Donager, was able to bypass an arcane 1911 educational law which stated emphatically it would be the responsibility of the Commissioner of the county serving the communities of New York, Buffalo, and Rochester to be responsible for the provision of nurses in the school. So, what better issue to raise holy hell on than one where the safety, security, mental and physical well-being of your children are at risk 180 days. You know what you got from this community? Silence. When the publicity became known about the condition of water in Flint, Michigan, where lead and copper and every other heavy metals were jeopardizing the health, especially of the young, not one parent here asked, how about the water our children are getting in Rochester? I sent an email to the Director of Environmental Assessments for Rochester, bringing up that issue. He never returned the email. But I had the water tested at my school 1.5 years before Flint even arrived, because in 1966, I had, through the Urban League, I had run an anti-lead poisoning drive among the young people here in Rochester. Dr. Kenneth Woodward, many of you may know him, Dr. Kenneth Woodward, and a scientist from the University of Rochester. The Urban League kept its mouth shut. We do not have a legitimate organization that is interested in the future of the people and especially the children in this community. And I'm angry at the adult population, I'll tell you that.
So it's, you know, a couple things come to mind. One, the leadership has failed us, so we need new leadership.
Yeah.
Everyone in this room is a leader, in one way or another. When we talk about leadership, you talk about getting knocked down 99 times and getting up 100, because it's going to be obstacles in the way. People, you're going to feel very passionate about something, people are going to ignore you, but it's about being relentless and persistent and continually to pound the pavement, and also being crystal clear on what we're asking for, right? So leadership matters. Another thing, just in alignment with that, we are an historically oppressed people. It's time for the leadership to rise up from within the historically oppressed to make the changes that are necessary in the community. As Dr. Cooper was speaking, it made me think of, I read an article recently about infant mortality rates. And America is one of the worst countries in terms of infant mortality. Out of 35 nations, we're like 32. Once again, it's disproportionate when we talk about poor Black and Latino, disproportionately high, particularly for Black women, disproportionately high. So we thought that prenatal care was the issue, right? Prenatal care, you give them quality prenatal care and then children will come out sick. No, that didn't even help, right? When they looked at Black women in America versus Black women in Libya moms lost their children at a lower rate than Black women in America. And that's a war-torn country. Why? Because America's legacy of racism and slavery still exists within our institutions, and Black women in particular feel that every day. They feel it in their blood, in their bones, the stress and the trauma of living in this country while Black, Latino, and poor lives in our bones every day. So if we don't deal with the trauma directly, we're going to continue to have these problems. That's why I advocate educating the whole child. Meaning we educate them socially so they know how to build and sustain healthy relationships. We educate them emotionally so they can have a passion for what they're learning, have that knowledge of self, have their self-awareness, self-esteem in place. and we educate them cognitively so they can have the academic skills that they need to do what's necessary.